Hello everyone, this is Dr. Madhushri Chatterjee and welcome to MC Biology classes. This is the second part of sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Let me start this class by asking you 5 important multiple choice questions. Those who have watched the lecture 1 of this chapter can surely answer this question. Let's begin. Question number 1. Function of filiform apparatus is to Option A, guide the entry of pollen tubes. Option B, recognize the suitable pollen at stigma. Option C, stimulate the division of generative cell. Option D, produce nectar. Then question number 2, pollen tablets are available in the market for option A, ex situ conservation. Option B, in vitro fertilization. Option C, breeding programs. Option D, supplementing food. Then question number 3. In angiosperms, functional megaspore develops into option A, embryo sac, option B, ovule, option C, endosperm, option D, pollen sac. Then question number 4. Megasporangium is equivalent to option A, nucellus, option B, ovule, option C, embryo sac, option D, fruit. Then the last question. Growth of pollen tube is helped by option A, magnesium, option B, calcium, option C, boron, option D, molybdenum. So if you know the answer, write in the comment section below. The first topic of today's discussion is pollination, and this is the third step of sexual reproduction in flowering plants. You have learnt that male and female gametes in flowering plants are produced in pollen grain and embryo sac respectively. As both the gametes are non-motile, how would they come to each other for fertilization? Yes, pollination is the mechanism to achieve this. Transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of pistil is known as pollination. Now, basically pollination is of two types. First one is self-pollination. Here, the transfer of pollen grain occurs from the anther to the stigma of same flower or different but genetically similar flower. And the second one is cross-pollination. Here, the transfer of pollen grain occurs from the anther of one flower to the stigma of a genetically dissimilar flower of the same species. Now, cross-pollination is brought about by some external agencies. That may be biotic, may be abiotic. So I will discuss that in detail shortly. Here I am going to discuss about the types of pollination in detail. Pollination, as I have already mentioned, is basically of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. Now self-pollination can be again divided into autogamy and ketonogamy. In case of autogamy, pollination is achieved within the same flower. Transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same flower occurs here. In case of ketonogamy, transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant occurs. Although ketonogamy is functionally cross-pollination involving a pollinating agent, genetically it is similar to autogamy. Why? Because pollen grains are coming from the same plant. Now, cross-pollination, which is also known as xenogamy or allogamy. Cross-pollination is done with the help of different external agencies. It could be either abiotic or it can be biotic. When we talk about the abiotic factors, the most important is wind pollination or anemophily, where wind acts as the external agency. Now, what will happen in case of wind pollination? Wind pollination requires pollen grains to be light and non-sticky so that they can be transported in wind currents, right? And moreover, the flower should bear large feathery stigma so that they can easily trap the airborne pollen grains, okay? The second one is water pollination or hydrophily. Now, pollination by water is quite rare in flowering plants and it is limited to about 30 genera only. mostly monocotyledons. There are some important features of water pollination that you should remember, and those features are important for competitive exams. Like some examples of water pollinated plants are Vallisneria, Hydrilla, etc. Now, remember, not all aquatic plants use water for pollination. Okay, in a majority of aquatic plants like water hyacinth and water lily, the flowers emerge above the level of water. So, obviously, they won't be able to get pollinated with the help of water, and they are pollinated by insect or wind, as in most of the land plants. Okay, then the biotic factor, it is also known as zoophily. Like in case of entomophily, it is pollination with the help of insects, chiropterophily by bats, malacophily pollination by snails, and ornithophily is pollination by birds. Now let me discuss about outbreeding devices. It's very interesting. Majority of flowering plants produce bisexual flower, and the pollen grains are likely to come in contact with the stigma of the same flower. Now, this continued self-pollination would result in inbreeding depression. So, flowering plants have developed many devices to discourage self-pollination and encourage cross-pollination. Now, these outbreeding devices are basically of 7 types. Let us start with the first type, that is dicliny. It is also known as unisexuality. Here the flowers are either male or female, so obviously no question of self-pollination comes here. The second one is dichogamy. It is also known as heterogamy. Here in this case, it is structurally bisexual but functionally unisexual because anther and stigmas mature at different times. Obviously, there is no synchronization between pollen release and stigma receptivity. It can be again divided into two types. First is protandry, where anthers mature earlier than stigma, as for example salvia, sunflower, rose, etc. And the second one is protogeny, where stigmas mature earlier than anther. It is found in gloriosa, magnolia, mirabilis, etc. The third device is self-sterility or self-incompatibility. Here, the pollen grains are incapable of germinating over the stigma of the same flower. Now, this incapability is basically controlled genetically by multiple allelism. Now, here comes the first question for my viewers. Can you give example of another multiple allelism? If you know the answer, write in the comment section below. Now, self-sterility is found in tobacco, tea, petunia, etc. Now, the fourth device, that is pollen prepotency. Here, the quicker growth of pollen of another plant than pollen of the same plant is called pollen prepotency. It is found in apple. The fifth one is heterostyle. What is that? The occurrence of two or more types of flower having different length of style and stamen is known as heterostyle. In case of primrose and jasmine, there are two types of flowers, while in case of oxalis, three types of flowers are there based on the length of style and stamen. Now, what happens when an insect visits a flower? It gets dusted with the pollen grain on a particular area of its body depending on the height of the anther. Now, this insect will pollinate only that flower in which the stigma lies at that level of the anther of the first flower. Now, this process involves pollens and stigma from two or more flowers having the similar height. So, basically, this can also be regarded as outbreeding device. The sixth one is harcogamy. Harcogamy. It is the presence of natural and physical barrier between anther and stigma of a bisexual flower to prevent self-pollination and favor cross-pollination. Even the positioning of anther and style is in such a way that pollen grains do not fall on the stigma of the same flower. It is found in gloriosa. Okay. And the seventh one is male sterility. The flower may be bisexual but with sterile anther. If the anther is sterile, therefore self-pollination cannot take place here. So this is all about outbreeding devices. Our next topic of discussion is importance of cross-pollination. Let us talk about the advantages first. Cross-pollination introduces genetic recombination and hence variations in the progeny. Cross-pollination increases the adaptability of the offspring towards changes in the environment. Then it makes the organism better fitted in the struggle for existence due to higher adaptability. The plants produced through cross-pollination are more resistant to diseases. The seeds produced are usually larger and the offsprings have characters better than the parents due to the phenomena called hybrid vigor. The defective characters of the race are eliminated and replaced by better character. So these all are the advantages of cross-pollination. Now let us talk about the disadvantages. First is it is highly wasteful process because plants have to produce a large number of pollen grains and other accessory structures in order to suit the various pollinating agents. Then it is less economical and some undesirable characters may creep in the race and the very good characters of the race are likely to be spoiled. Next topic of discussion is the pollen-pistil interaction. That is the continuous dialogue between pollen and pistil. Now what is that? It sounds a bit interesting. Pollination does not guarantee the transfer of the right type of pollen, that is the compatible pollen, to the stigma. Often the pollen of the wrong type, either from the other species or from the same plant, also land on the stigma. Now the pistil has the ability to recognize the pollen, whether it is of right type, that is compatible, or it is the wrong type, that is incompatible. If it is found right type, the pistil accepts the pollen and promotes the post-pollination events that finally leads to fertilization. And if the pollen is found wrong type, then pistil rejects the pollen by preventing pollen germination on the stigma or the pollen tube growth in the style. The ability of pistil to recognize the pollen followed by its acceptance or rejection is the result of continuous dialogue between pollen grain and the pistil. Now remember, this dialogue is mediated by chemical components of the pollen interacting with those of the pistil. As discussed earlier, following compatible pollination, the pollen grain germinates on the stigma to produce a pollen tube through one of the germ pores. Now the contents of the pollen grain move into the pollen tube. Pollen tube grows through the tissues of the stigma and style and reaches the ovary. You have also learnt it in your class 11 standard. I hope you can remember it. If you can't, just have a quick revision. Now you can also recall that pollen grains are shared at two-celled condition. I discussed in my previous lecture, that is a vegetative cell and a generative cell. In such plants, the generative cell divides and forms the two male gametes during the growth of pollen tube in the stigma. In plants which shed pollen in the three-celled condition, pollen tube carry two male gametes from the beginning. Pollen tube, after reaching the ovary, enters the ovule through the micropyle end and then enters one of the synergids through, filiform apparatus. Many recent studies have shown that filiform apparatus present at the micropylar end of the synergid guides the entry of pollen tube. I discussed it in my last lecture also. So all these events from pollen deposition on the stigma until the pollen tube enters the ovule are together referred as pollen-pistil interaction. Okay. Remember, it's a very dynamic process involving pollen recognition followed by the promotion or inhibition of the pollen. The knowledge gained in this area would help the plant breeders in manipulating pollen-pistil interaction, even in incompatible pollination, to get desired hybrid. Our next topic of discussion is artificial hybridization. Artificial hybridization is one of the major approaches of crop improvement program. Now, in artificial hybridization, crossing is made in such a way that only desired pollen grains are utilized for the process of pollination. Here, stigma is protected from unwanted pollen. Removal of anther from the floral bud before the anther dehisces using a pair of forceps is called emasculation, and this is the first step of artificial hybridization. Next, what happens? Now the emasculated flowers have to be covered with a bag of suitable size. Normally it is made up of butter paper in order to prevent contamination of its stigma with unwanted pollen. And this process is called bagging. Now when the stigma of bagged flower attains receptivity, mature pollen grain collected from the anther of the male parent are dusted on the stigma. And again the flowers are rebagged and the fruits allowed to develop. So this is about artificial hybridization. Our next topic of discussion is fertilization. That is the fourth step of sexual reproduction. Now, in case of fertilization, fusion of compatible male and female gamete occurs. It is also known as syngamy. It was discovered by Strasburger and he observed the fusion of male and female gametes first in Monotropa. In seed plants, fertilization is known as siphonogamy. Why? Because male gametes are carried by pollen tube like siphoning. Remember, in case of gymnosperms, pollen grains land directly on the nucleus, whereas in angiosperms, they are deposited on the stigma. Hydration and swelling of pectic layer of intine on stigma causes rupturing of the exine. Now the intine comes out in the form of pollen tube. The rapid growth of pollen tube is restricted only to the tip region. Remember, pollen tube wall is 3-layered and this is important for exam. The outer layer is pectin layer, middle one is pectocellulosic layer and the inner layer is callosic layer. Pollen tube moves at a rate of 1 to 6 millimeter per hour. And remember, pollen grain does not pass down the stigma. Only pollen tubes go. Only pollen tubes go. The pollen tube secretes pectinase and other hydrolytic enzymes in order to create a passage for its entry into the style. Now, pollen tube can enter the ovule by 4 methods. First one is porogamy, which is most common type in when the pollen tube enters through micropyle, as for example in Orthotropous and Anatropous ovule. Second one is basegamy or chalazogamy. Here the entry through chalaza or funicle occurs. It is found in walnut or again casuarina. Third one is mesogamy. Here pollen tube penetrates laterally through integuments. You can see in the diagram, everything is mentioned in the diagram itself. Mesogamy is found in Cucurbita, Poplus, etc. And the last one is acrogamy. Here the embryo sac comes out of the micropyle to receive the pollen tube and it is found in Utricularia. Two types of fertilization occurs in the embryo sac. The first one is generative fertilization or syngamy or true fertilization. In this case, it is the fusion of one male gamete with the egg to produce diploid zygote that forms diploid embryo, that is 2N, and it was discovered by Strasburger. The second one is vegetative fertilization or triple fusion or pseudo fertilization. It is the fusion of nucleus of a male gamete with the diploid secondary nucleus that was formed by fusion of two haploid polar nuclei. I think you can remember, as I have already discussed. Now, vegetative fertilization is also called triple fusion because it involves fusion of one male nucleus and two polar nuclei, and it was discovered by Navaschin. Triple fusion converts central cell into a triploid primary endosperm cell. The triploid nucleus is called PEN or primary endosperm nucleus, and it forms triploid endosperm. Thus, in the same embryo sac, that is female gametophyte, fertilization occurs twice. One is called syngamy and the second is known as triple fusion. This double act of fertilization in the same embryo sac is called double fertilization. And remember, it is a characteristic feature of angiosperm. Can you give example of an angiosperm where double fertilization is absent? Yes, if you know the answer, write in the comment section. Then double fertilization ensures that endosperm is formed, and this is one of the importances of this double fertilization. Here in this diagram, you can find an ovary showing the process of fertilization. You can find all the structures that I have mentioned right now. Then significance of double fertilization. Yes, significance of double fertilization is, first of all, it is found in angiosperms only. Double fertilization in angiosperm, female gametophyte abruptly stops its growth at 8 nucleate stage. Further growth of embryo sac occurs only when zygote has been formed and primary endosperm nucleus has been created by triple fusion. The triple fusion initiates the formation of endosperm. The endosperm is formed only when it is needed, and the need arises after fertilization because the endosperm provides nutrition for the simultaneously developing embryo. This is a very important point, okay, that endosperm provides nutrition for the developing embryo. If fertilization fails, no endosperm will be formed. Thus, there will be no wastage of energy in the development of endosperm. See, there is no such provision in gymnosperm. There is therefore no wastage of energy on this account in gymnosperm. So this is all about this lecture. Feel free to ask your queries in the comment section below this video. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to like this video. Thank you. Thank you so much.